She grew up in a mansion in Beverly Hills with 3 maids and a private tutor. Her father was one of the wealthiest Filipino-Americans in California, and he had spent 30 years making sure his daughter never had to remember where he came from. But when she turned 24, she did something he could never have imagined. She flew alone to a small barrio in the Philippines he had not visited in 4 decades. And what she brought back left the most powerful man she knew sitting on the floor of his own office, unable to speak. In a glass-walled office on the 32nd floor of a Los Angeles high-rise, a man named Eduardo Montenegro sat across from his only daughter, Bianca. He was 62 years old. He owned one of the largest Filipino-American business empires in California, and he had spent the last 30 years ensuring his family never had to remember the barrio that made him. Eduardo had grown up in a small barrio in Ilocos Sur, Philippines. His father was a rice farmer. His mother took in laundry from neighboring barangays. He had slept on a bamboo floor until he was 17. He never spoke about any of this. Not to his American-born wife, not to his daughter, not even to himself. He had simply buried it. Bianca Montenegro was 24 years old and had been born and raised in Los Angeles. She had never set foot in the Philippines. Every time she asked her father about his homeland, he changed the subject. He said there was nothing to see. He said the past was the past. He said their family's real life started the day he landed in America in 1982.
Quick pause. If stories like this move you, subscribe to Pinoy Spirit Chronicles, hit that like button, and drop Pinoy in the comments below. Now let us continue. Because what Bianca was about to discover would change everything.
Bianca had been raised in a world so comfortable she barely understood she was Filipino. She attended private schools in Beverly Hills. Her classmates were children of actors and tech executives. She spoke no Tagalog. She had never eaten adobo cooked by her own father. When someone asked her where her family was from in the Philippines, she genuinely did not know how to answer. Her father had never told her. It started with a photograph she found by accident. She was helping her mother sort through old boxes in the garage when a black and white picture fell from a stack of envelopes. It showed a young barefoot boy standing beside a thin woman in front of a small nipa hut. The boy held a bundle of rice stalks. Bianca turned the photo over with trembling fingers. On the back of the photograph, written in faded blue ink, were 3 words and a place name she had never heard. Barrio San Andres, 1971, Eduardo and Nanai. That was all. Bianca stared at the photograph for a long time. She did not recognize the boy, but she recognized the eyes. They were her father's eyes. She asked her father about the photograph that same evening over dinner. Eduardo looked at it for 3 seconds. Then he took it from her hand and placed it face down beside his wine glass. He told her to forget she had seen it. He said some things are better left where they were buried 4 decades ago. Bianca did not argue. She simply decided. 2 weeks later, Bianca told her parents she was going on a solo retreat to Hawaii. She booked a flight in her own name with money from her own trust account. She told no one the real destination. She packed a small bag and she boarded a Philippine Airlines flight to Manila for the first time in her life. She was going to a place her father had not spoken about in 37 years. The flight took 15 hours. She hired a driver at the airport who spoke broken English. The drive from Manila to Ilocos Sur took another 9 hours. When she finally arrived, Bianca stepped out of the car in the middle of a small barrio surrounded by rice fields. The air smelled like wood smoke and wet earth. A group of children stopped playing to stare at the American girl. She had never felt more out of place in her life. She asked the first adult she saw if they knew the Montenegro family. The old man squinted at her in the afternoon sun. He said the Montenegros had not lived there in over 40 years. Then he looked at her face more carefully. He said she had the eyes of Eduardo, the boy who left for America and never came back. Bianca's heart stopped for a moment. The old man walked her slowly to a small house at the edge of the Barrio. It was the house in the photograph. The Nipa walls had been replaced with concrete, but the shape was the same. A woman in her 80s sat on the wooden bench outside. Her silver hair was tied back with a simple comb. Her eyes were the same as Eduardo's, and her hands were folded in her lap. The old woman looked up as Bianca approached. She did not speak. She simply studied Bianca's face for a long moment. Then her eyes filled with tears, and she whispered one word. Apo. Grandchild. Bianca did not understand how this woman knew her, but the old woman reached up with shaking hands and touched Bianca's face like she was confirming something she had already believed for decades. Her name was Nanai Rosalia. She was Eduardo's aunt, his mother's younger sister. She was the last living relative from her father's side of the family. She had been waiting, she said, waiting for 40 years. She had always known somebody would come home one day. She had prayed for it every single night before she slept. In Tagalog, in faith, in silence. Nanai Rosalia invited Bianca inside. The house had one main room, a small kitchen, and a sleeping area separated by a faded curtain. A wooden crucifix hung on the wall. A framed photograph sat on a small wooden table. It was the same photograph Bianca had found in her parents' garage in Los Angeles. The same boy, the same woman, her grandmother. Nanai Rosalia told Bianca everything over a cup of strong, black coffee. She told her about Eduardo's mother, Aling Remedios. She told her about the years when the family had nothing but rice and dried fish. She told her how Aling Remedios took in laundry from neighboring barangays just to keep her son in school when everyone else said it was a waste of money.
She told her how young Eduardo walked 7 kilometers to school every morning barefoot because they could not afford shoes. How he studied under a kerosene lamp until midnight every night. How his mother sold her wedding ring when he was 17 so he could afford the bus fare to Manila and the plane ticket to America. She had told him to never come back until he had succeeded. Bianca sat very still on the small wooden bench. She was beginning to understand something she had never been told. Her father had not simply come from this place. He had been sent from it with sacrifice so profound, it still echoed in the eyes of the old woman sitting across from her. Nanai Rosalia reached into a wooden box beside her chair and pulled out a small cloth bundle. Inside the cloth bundle was a letter. It was 40 years old. The paper was so thin, it was almost transparent. Nanai Rosalia explained that Aling Remedios had written this letter to her son Eduardo in 1985, 3 years before she died. She had mailed it to his first apartment address in California. It had been returned unopened. Eduardo had already moved. He had never received it. Nanai Rosalia told Bianca that Aling Remedios had kept the returned letter in this wooden box until the day she died. She had asked Nanai Rosalia to keep it safe. She had said one day somebody from Eduardo's family in America would find their way back home. And when they did, they would know exactly what to do with it. Bianca held the letter with both hands. She did not open it. It was not hers to read. It belonged to the man who had never received it. The man who had buried his entire Filipino childhood so deeply, he would not even let his own American daughter see a photograph of his mother. She tucked the letter carefully into her bag beside her passport. Nanai Rosalia took Bianca to her grandmother's grave that afternoon. It was a simple concrete marker in the small Barrio cemetery behind the chapel. The name Aling Remedios Montenegro was carved into the stone. The date of death was 1988. Bianca knelt in the grass beside the grave. She had never met her grandmother. She had never even heard her name spoken aloud, but she cried as if she had known her all her life. That night, Bianca stayed in Nanai Rosalia's house. She slept on a folding cot near the kitchen. The bamboo walls creaked in the wind. A rooster crowed at 3 in the morning. She could not sleep. She sat up and looked at her phone. She had 140 missed calls from her father in Los Angeles. She did not return a single one. Before she left the next morning, Nanai Rosalia handed her something else. It was a small wooden rosary. The beads were worn smooth from decades of prayer. She said it had belonged to Aling Remedios. She said her grandmother had prayed on that rosary every single night for Eduardo in America, even after she stopped hearing from him. She had never stopped believing he would come home. Bianca flew back to Los Angeles with the letter in her bag and the rosary wrapped in her scarf. Her hands shook during the entire 15-hour flight. She did not watch any movies. She did not sleep. She simply sat in her window seat thinking about a woman who had prayed for her father every night for 40 years, across an entire ocean without a single reply. When she arrived at the Los Angeles office tower the next evening, it was nearly midnight. Eduardo was still in his office. His assistant had been waiting for Bianca for hours. His face was tight with anger when she walked in. He demanded to know where she had really been. He said he had called every resort in Hawaii. Bianca did not answer him. She simply placed her bag on his desk. She pulled out the small wooden rosary first. She placed it gently on the desk in front of him. Eduardo looked at it for a long moment. His expression did not change at first. Then slowly, something in his face began to break apart. He recognized it. He had watched his mother hold that exact rosary every night of his childhood. He had seen her pray on it before every meal in that nipa hut. Bianca pulled out the letter next. She placed it beside the rosary. Eduardo read his mother's handwriting on the envelope. The old address in California, the words "Return to Sender" stamped in red ink. 1985. He put both hands flat on his desk to steady himself. He did not speak for almost a full minute. When he finally did, his voice was unrecognizable. He asked her one word. "Where?" Bianca told him. "San Andres, Ilocos Sur, Nanai Rosalia, the house he grew up in, the grave of the mother he had not visited in 37 years. She told him his aunt had been waiting for him for 4 decades. She told him his mother had prayed for him every night across the ocean until the day she died in 1988. Eduardo picked up the letter with trembling hands. He opened it slowly. His mother had written it 3 months before her death. The handwriting was weak but legible. Bianca could not see the words from where she stood, but she watched her father's face as he read them. And she watched the most powerful Filipino-American man she had ever known slowly slide out of his leather chair onto the floor of his own office. He sat on the carpet with his back against his desk. The letter was still in his hands. He did not cry loudly. He did not make a sound at first. He simply sat there while tears ran down his face onto his expensive suit. Bianca sat down on the floor beside him. She did not speak. She put her hand gently on his shoulder. He was speechless for almost an hour. When he finally spoke, Eduardo said only one thing. He said his mother had written that she was not asking him to come home. She was only asking him to remember that she loved him, that she understood why he had crossed the ocean, that she was proud of what he had become in America, and that when his own children were born, he should tell them about the woman who had sold her wedding ring so they could exist at all. Eduardo flew to Ilocos Sur with Bianca 3 days later. It was the first time he had set foot in the Philippines in 37 years. He stood at his mother's grave for a long time. He did not speak. He simply placed the rosary back on the concrete marker and knelt in the grass. Nanai Rosalia watched from a few steps away. She had waited 40 years for this exact moment. Eduardo returned to California a changed man. He hung the old photograph on the wall of his Los Angeles office in a proper wooden frame. He told his executives about his mother at the next shareholder meeting. He established a scholarship in her name for poor students in Ilocos Sur. And every year on her death anniversary, he and Bianca flew back to the Barrio together without fail. This story is inspired by the millions of Filipino parents who crossed oceans so their children could have better lives and never spoke of the weight they carried. Aling Remedios Montenegro sold her wedding ring to send her son to America. She prayed for him every night for 40 years across the Pacific. She wrote him a letter he never received, and in the end, it was her American granddaughter who finally brought her voice home. Because love, once planted, never truly dies. It simply waits for someone to find it.